I've never really believed in things like Ouija boards. I mean, I'd seen videos, heard stories, but I always assumed it was people messing around. That changed a couple of years ago. It was at my mate Jake's house. Nothing unusual about the night, really, just normal. His parents were out, we were bored, and he told me he'd found something in the loft earlier that day. When I got there, he already had it set up on the dining table. It was a Ouija board. Not one that you'd buy online. This one looked older, wooden, worn. The letters weren't clean, like they'd faded over time. I asked where it came from. He said it had been in a box, wrapped in cloth. That stuck with me. We didn't take it seriously at first. Honestly, we were just bored. We turned the lights down a little bit, just because it felt like that's what you were supposed to do. We both put our fingers on the planchette, and Jake said, "Is anyone there?" Nothing happened. Both kind of smirked. Then it moved. Just a tiny bit, barely noticeable. I thought he was pushing it. I asked him. He said he wasn't, and then it moved again. Properly this time. Right across the board. And it stopped on yes. That's when it stopped being funny. I remember feeling a bit off. Not scared, not yet, just uncomfortable. Jake leaned in and asked what its name was. It started moving again, slower this time. Elias. Elias. We just looked at each other. I asked if it was actually there with us. Straight back to yes, no hesitation. And this sounds stupid, but the room genuinely felt colder, like a window had been opened, even though it hadn't. Jake asked how it died, and that's when it stopped, completely still. For a few seconds, nothing. Then suddenly, it dragged hard across the board to no. That's when I pulled my hand away. I said, "We should probably stop." But Jake didn't want to. He put his fingers back on it. I hesitated, then did the same. He asked if it was still there, straight to yes. Too quick. Then he asked if it was in the house with us. There was a pause and then it moved to yes. Right after that, we heard something upstairs, a creak, like a floorboard. We both looked up. There shouldn't have been anyone there. I told him to end it. He didn't. He asked if it was upstairs. Again. Yes. Then another sound. Louder this time. Not just a creak. More like a step. At that point, I felt it. That proper uneasy feeling. I told him again, stop. He ignored me. He asked if it was alone. This time, it didn't go straight to yes or no. It spelled out N-O. And that's when everything changed. The room felt heavy. Like the air had thickened. Then we heard something on the stairs. Not footsteps, dragging, slow, uneven. Coming down, step, drag, step, drag. Jake whispered, "Did you lock the door?" I said, "Yeah," but I wasn't completely sure. Then the board moved again. We weren't even asking anything. It spelled out D-O-N-T. Then stopped. Then again, L-E-T. Jake said, "Don't let what?" The planchette snapped to I-T. Right after that, the hallway light went out, just like that. We both stood up. I told him, end it properly. He tried. He said, "Goodbye," but the planchette didn't move, not even slightly. Then we heard it. The door handle slowly turning. The dining room door opened, just a little, but there was no one there. Just darkness. And this smell, damp, old, wrong. Jake went to check. I told him not to, but he did anyway. There was nothing there. Everything looked normal, but it didn't feel normal, not even close. We didn't close the session properly. We just left it. I went home not long after. We didn't really talk about it, just avoided it. A few weeks later, Jake messaged me. He asked if I'd said goodbye properly. I told him I thought we had. He said he hadn't, and that was the last proper message I got from him. The next day, he was gone. No signs of anything, no forced entry, no explanation, just gone. I went back to that house once, just once. The board was still there, exactly where we left it. There was something new, scratched into the wood, deep and deliberate. One word, hello. I don't touch anything like that anymore. And if anyone ever asks me about Ouija boards, I just tell them this. If you start something, make sure you end it. I didn't even plan to be involved in it. It was my sister's idea, not mine. She'd invited a couple of her friends over one night, and I was just in the house, doing my own thing. I remember hearing them laughing downstairs. The kind of laugh people do when they're pretending they're not nervous. I went down to see what they were doing, and that's when I saw it. A Ouija board, laid out on the coffee table. One of those proper wooden ones, not cheap or printed. Looked old, like it had been kept for years. I asked where they got it. One of her friends said it belonged to her aunt, and that they used it all the time. That didn't help. I told them straight away, I'm not getting involved in that. They laughed it off, said it was harmless, just a bit of fun. But I stayed in the room anyway. Didn't sit at the table, just watched from the sofa. They turned the lights down slightly, not completely dark, just enough to change the mood. Then they all put their fingers on the planchette, and one of them asked, is anyone here with us? Nothing happened. They all looked at each other, smiling. Then it moved. It was slow, but then it slid properly to yes. They all reacted straight away, laughing, but quieter now, nervous. I remember thinking, one of them's definitely pushing it, has to be. Then one of them asked its name. The planchette started moving again, without stopping, without hesitation. Daniel. Daniel. They repeated it out loud, and that's when I noticed something. No one was joking anymore. My sister asked, Daniel, how old are you? The planchette moved straight away to 32. Again, no hesitation, like it already knew the answers. That's what made it feel off. It wasn't reacting, it was ahead. And something happened that I can't really explain. One of her friends hadn't asked anything yet, but the planchette started moving anyway, slowly, like it was answering a question that hadn't been said. It spelled out H-E-R-E. We all just looked at it, then at each other. No one had spoken, no one had asked anything. I remember saying, right, who just did that? They all denied it, straight away, too quickly. Then my sister said, Daniel, what do you mean, here? The planchette didn't move. For a few seconds, nothing. Then it slid slowly across the board. R-O-O-M. Room. At that point, I sat forward. I wasn't touching it, but I was definitely paying attention now. Because the way it was moving, it didn't look like someone pushing it. It looked controlled. One of them asked, are you in this room with us? Straight to yes, no delay. Then the temperature dropped. Not a lot, but just enough that you noticed it, like when the heating cuts out. We all felt it, you could tell. And the girl who brought the board, she went quiet, proper quiet. She was staring at it, not moving. Then she said, I didn't tell you something. We all looked at her. She said that her aunt, the one who owned the board, told her not to use it anymore because it had started answering on its own. Right after she said that, the planchette moved again. No one asked anything. No one touched it differently. It just moved. S-T-A-Y. Stay. That's what it spelt. That was enough for me. I stood up and said, end it. Straight away. No more questions. But they hesitated, just for a second. In that second, it moved again. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. Friends. That changed the mood completely. No one was laughing anymore. My sister said, okay, goodbye. But the planchette didn't move. It just stayed there. And slowly, it slid back to the centre. Stopped. And didn't move again. Packed it away after that. Didn't say much. Everyone just kind of left quietly. Late that night, I asked my sister something. I said, "Before it's spelt here, did you ask anything?" She said, "No, none of them had." A few days later, I noticed something strange. Small things, just things not where I left them. Doors slightly open. Lights I didn't remember turning on. Nothing major, just enough to notice. I asked my sister if she'd used the board again. She said no. Said she didn't even want it in the house anymore. Then one night, I walked into the living room and the board was out on the table. No one else home. I didn't touch it, didn't go near it. I just stood there looking at it. And I swear the planchette moved, just slightly, on its own. I got rid of it the next day. Didn't ask questions, didn't tell anyone, just took it out and left it. Nothing major's happened since, but every now and then I still think about that moment when it answered, before we even asked. And that one word, stay. I didn't actually believe in Ouija boards when this happened. Not properly. I thought if anything did move, it'd just be people doing it without realising. This didn't feel like that. It happened at a friend's flat. Just a normal evening, nothing planned. There were 4 of us there. One of them, Emma, brought the board with her. Said she'd had it for years, but hadn't used it in a long time. That should have been enough of a reason not to touch it, but we did anyway. We didn't set it up like you see online. There was no candles, no dark room. TV was still on in the background. That's probably why it felt more real, because nothing about it felt staged. We all sat around the table, lightly resting fingers on the planchette. No pressure, no forcing it. Emma asked the first question. "Is anybody here?" There was a delay this time, a proper one, 5, maybe 6 seconds. Then it moved, slowly, to yes. No one laughed, not even nervously. It just went quiet. We kept it simple after that, just basic questions, nothing dramatic. How old are you? Are you male or female? That sort of thing. The answers came back normally, slow and consistent. Nothing that stood out too much. Then I asked something different. I don't even know why. I just said, "What's my name?" There was a pause, longer than before, and it started moving. Not fast, not slow, just deliberate. It spelled out a name. It wasn't mine. I remember frowning and saying, "Well, that's not right." One of the others laughed a bit, said maybe it got confused, so I asked again. Same question. "What's my name?" This time it didn't spell anything straight away. It moved to no. That felt strange because it wasn't refusing to answer. It was saying that wasn't the question. Emma leaned forward slightly and she asked, "Who are you talking to?" That's when it changed. The movement became quicker, more certain. It spelled out a name again. None of us recognised it, not one of us. We all looked at each other trying to figure out if someone was messing about, but no one admitted anything. So I asked, "Is that someone here?" Straight to yes. There were 4 of us sitting there, and none of us knew that name. That's when I started to feel it. Not fear exactly, just that feeling when something doesn't add up. Emma asked, "Are you talking about one of us?" Planchette didn't go to yes or no. It started spelling again, same name, over and over, stopping and starting again, like it was trying to correct something. That's when one of the others, Liam, he took his hands off it completely. He said, "All right, that's enough." But the planchette didn't stop. Even with his hands off, it kept moving, slowly, dragging slightly, but still moving. We all noticed it at the same time. No one said anything for a second, and then Emma whispered, "Is anyone pushing that?" No one was, not anymore. That's when I pulled my hands back too. The planchette stopped, dead still, right in the middle of the board. No goodbye, no closing it, just stopped. We didn't touch it again that night, didn't even move it, just left it where it was. A couple of days later, I got a message from Liam. He asked me something out of nowhere. Do you remember the name it kept spelling? I said, yeah, of course I did. He didn't reply straight away. And about 10 minutes later, he sent another message. He said, I've seen it before. I asked where. He said he wasn't sure, just that it felt familiar. Later that night, he sent one more message, a photo. It was a screenshot of an old news article dated years before any of us lived there. Headline was something like, local incident, nothing major, but halfway down there was a name mentioned. The same one. The person who used to live in that flat. The same flat we were sitting in. None of us had ever looked it up, never talked about it, didn't even know anything had happened there. We never used that board again. Didn't even really talk about it after that. But every now and then, I think about that moment when it answered my question, someone else's name. And I still don't know what bothers me more, that it got it wrong, or that maybe it didn't. I didn't actually use the board at first. It was just there. It was at Aaron's place. Nothing special, just a few of us hanging out. Music on, talking, that kind of thing. Someone brought up Ouija boards, and Aaron goes, I've actually got one somewhere. We thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He went upstairs and came back with it. It didn't look creepy or anything. Just a normal board, like something you'd pick up online. No big deal. A few of them sat down to try it, and I stayed back, just watched. They did the usual thing. Is anyone there? Nothing. Asked again, still nothing. After a bit, they started laughing, saying it was pointless. Then Aaron said, maybe it only works with certain people. Just joking, really, but he sat down anyway, put his fingers on it, and asked the same question. It moved. Straight away. No build-up or anything, just moved. Everyone went quiet after that, proper quiet. They asked him if he was pushing it. He said no, didn't even look up, just kept staring at the board. They asked a few basic things, and he answered all of them, quick as well, too quick really. Then Aaron lifted his hands off it, just to see. He asked another question, nothing happened. He put his hands back on, asked again, and it worked. That's when we all kind of clocked it. It wasn't working for them, it was working for him. They swapped people around, tried different things, but nothing changed. If Aaron wasn't touching it, it didn't move. At that point it felt a bit off. Not scary, just strange. Someone asked, are you connected to Aaron? It didn't go to yes or no, it spelled something. Since. That was it, just that word. Aaron kind of frowned and said, since when? There was a pause longer than before. Then it moved again. Child. No one really knew what to say after that. We all just sort of looked at him. He laughed a bit, but it wasn't natural, you could tell. And someone asked, does he know you? It went straight to no. That's when it started feeling a bit uncomfortable. Aaron went quiet after that and didn't say much. Then he asked, where are you? He answered, here. Which, yeah, that's what you'd expect, but it still didn't feel right. So he said, no, where exactly? And this time it just moved to the middle of the board and stopped. Didn't answer, didn't move again. Aaron lifted his hands and for a second it still moved. Not much, just slightly, but enough that we all saw it. That's when we stopped. No one argued, we just packed it away. Didn't even bother doing it properly. A few days later I saw Aaron again. I asked him about it, just casually. He didn't really want to talk about it, he just said, yeah, I'm not using that again. I asked why, and then he paused and said, the way it was moving. He said it felt familiar, like the pauses, the way it spelled things. He said, I used to write like that when I was a kid. I didn't really know what to say to that. We'd never used it again, but yeah, that one stuck with me. Just the fact that it worked, it's when he was there only, and what it said, since child. This happened a few years ago, and I still don't really talk about it much. Not because it was dramatic or anything, just because it didn't feel right after. It was at my cousin's house. He'd just moved in. Older place, nothing fancy, but one of those houses where everything works, but it still feels a bit off. Not in a scary way, just quiet. We were helping him clear out some of the stuff the previous owners left behind. Mostly rubbish, boxes, old clothes, that kind of thing. Then we found it. It was in a drawer in the living room, right at the back, wrapped in a tea towel, a Ouija board. It didn't look like something that someone bought for fun. It looked kept, like it had been put away properly. I remember saying, "Just leave that." But he laughed. Said it was probably nothing. We didn't use it straight away, that's the thing. We left it there for a couple of days. Didn't really think about it. Then one night it came up again. There were 3 of us there, just sat around talking. Nothing going on. My cousin brought it out and put it on the table. Didn't say anything, he just set it down. And that was it. That's how it started. Didn't do anything dramatic. There were no candles, no lights off, just normal lighting. We sat down, put our fingers on the planchette, and I remember saying, "Just one question, yeah?" And they agreed. So I asked, "Is anyone there?" Nothing. We waited a bit, still nothing. I actually said, "Right, there you go." And then it moved. Slow at first, like it was being dragged, then steady, and then it stopped on yes. We all looked at each other. No one laughed at all, and I said, "All right, who's pushing it?" No one answered, they just shook their heads, and the thing is, it didn't feel like anyone was. We should have stopped there, but we didn't. My cousin asked, "Who is it?" It started moving again. Took longer this time. S-A-R-A-H, Sarah. None of us knew anyone connected to that house called Sarah. We didn't react much, just kind of took it in. Then I asked, "Did you live here?" Straight to yes. That made more sense, at least, logically. Then my cousin asked, "How long?" It didn't answer properly, just moved slightly, then stopped, like it didn't understand the question. So I asked something else. "Are you still here now?" And that's where it changed, the movement. It wasn't slow anymore. It went straight to yes, hard, like it was pushed. That made me pull my hand back slightly, but I didn't take it off completely. Then one of the others asked, "Why are you still here?" There was a pause, a proper one, and it started moving again. Not smoothly this time, it kept stopping and starting again. L-O-O-K, and then it stopped. We all just sat there. Look where? Nothing, it didn't move. So my cousin said, "Where?" Still nothing, then pause, it moved again. S-T-A-I-R-S, stairs. We all looked at each other. No one said it out loud, but we all knew what it meant. There was a staircase just outside the living room. I remember saying, "No, leave it," but my cousin stood up anyway. He walked out into the hallway. We could hear his footsteps on the first few steps. He stopped, completely still. I called out, "What?" He didn't answer. Then he said, "Did you move something up here?" We both said no. He came down slowly. I said one of the doors upstairs was open. He was sure it had been shut earlier. We didn't go up. We just sat back down. And that's when I said, "End it. No more questions." My cousin nodded. He said, "Goodbye." We waited. Nothing. He said it again. Still nothing. And the planchette moved on its own. We hadn't asked anything. It slid slowly back towards the letters S-T-A-Y, stay. That was enough. We all took our hands off it. Didn't say anything else, just left it there. We didn't use it again. The next morning I asked my cousin where he'd put it. He said he hadn't touched it, but it wasn't on the table anymore. We found it later, back in the drawer, wrapped up, exactly how we found it. No one admitted to putting it there, and honestly, I don't think anyone did. We never brought it up again after that, but every time I've been back in that house, I noticed the same thing. That door upstairs. It's never fully closed. This one's a bit harder to explain. And I know how it sounds before I even say it, but I'll just tell you how it happened. It wasn't planned. No one turned up that night thinking we were going to mess with anything like that. It was just me and two friends at a flat one of them had just moved into. First week there, boxes still unpacked, stuff everywhere. We found the board completely by accident. It was already there, back of a cupboard in the spare room, under some old cleaning stuff. Not hidden, but not exactly out either. I remember saying, just leave it, straight away. Didn't even joke about it, but they did what people always do, laughed it off. Said it'd be a waste not to try it. We left it for a bit, carried on with the night. But once it's there, you keep thinking about it, so eventually we brought it into the living room. Put it on the table, no big setup, no candles, nothing like that. Just the normal light on. We sat down, all three of us. I said, one question and that's it. They all agreed. So I asked, is anyone here? Nothing. We waited maybe 10 seconds, still nothing. I actually started pulling my hand away. I said, right, that's that then. And then it moved, slow but clear, straight to yes. We all stopped talking after that. There wasn't any laughing this time. One of them asked, who is it? It started moving, but it didn't spell a name, it went to no. That confused me more than anything, so I said, alright, well, what do you want? And that's when it changed. The movement got faster, quicker, more aggressive, just certain. It started spelling something, D-O-N-T, and stopped. We all just watched it, waiting, and it carried on. A-S-K, don't ask. That's what it said. We all kind of looked at each other, and I remember saying, well, we didn't ask anything yet. That's when one of them said, ask what? And I swear, this is the bit I keep going over in my head. He hadn't even finished the sentence, and it started moving again. Before he finished speaking, F-I-R-S-T, first. So now it read, don't ask first. None of us said anything after that. It just went quiet. Then one of them, I still don't know why, he asked anyway, what happens if we do? The second he said it, the planchette moved fast, too fast, straight across the board, no pause, N-O, then it kept going, D-O-O-R, no door. I remember thinking, oh, that's not right, just fear, a drop in your stomach. I said, end it, straight away, but no one moved. They were all still looking at the board. Then one of them said, ask something else. I said, no, but he did it anyway. What door? And that's when everything stopped, completely still. No movement, no sound, nothing. For a good 10 seconds then, we heard something from the hallway, a soft click, like a door handle. We all looked at each other. No one had moved. And it came again, slow, click. I said, is there even a door out there? Because the layout was weird. There shouldn't have been. Not where that sound was coming from. One of them stood up, walked out into the hallway. I stayed where I was, didn't want to move. He stopped just outside the room and said, why is this open? I said, what? He said, there's a door here. I said, no there isn't. Because we'd been in and out of that flat all night. There was no door there. He didn't answer, just stood there. Slowly he pushed it shut and said, that wasn't open before. We ended it after that, or tried to. He said goodbye. The planchette didn't move. We just took our hands off it, left it there. No one wanted to touch it again. Didn't talk about it properly after, just kind of avoided it. And then the next day, I messaged him, the one who saw the door, and I asked him, where exactly was it? He sent me a photo, just a blank wall, no door, nothing. I rang him straight after. He swore it was there. He said he touched it, closed it, felt it, but it wasn't in the photo. And it wasn't there when we went back. No marks, no frame, nothing. I got rid of the board that day. Didn't even think about it, just took it out and left it. But every now and then I still think about what it said. Don't ask first. And that question, what happens if we do? Because whatever that door was, it wasn't.